A knitted fringe is a very nice addition to the cuff on a sock or a mitten. And it can be worked right after the cast on row, or after some ribbing, or after some plain stockinette. I've done plain stockinette here so you can clearly see the right side and wrong side of the work. So I've been knitting around, knitting every round, and now I'm ready to knit my braid. And I'm going to have to turn and work in the opposite direction on the wrong side of the work. So I move my needles so the purl side is facing me, and I'm going to work backwards in this direction, doing a wrong side row on circular knitting. And there'll be a little hole that forms there, but that doesn't really matter. It won't show. It's going to be covered up by the fringe. If you're worried about it, it's where the tail of your yarn is, and you're somewhat near the cast on edge because the cuff will have the fringe near the edge, and you can use the tail to close up the hole. So what I'm going to do is bring my yarn to the back because we're going to do a knit row. First thing we'll do is we'll knit a plain stitch. So now everything's kind of tidy. The yarn is attached to the needle in our right hand, and we can work the stitch with the fringe. And most of the time you do the fringe stitch every other stitch. So I'm going to insert the needle into the stitch, and I'm going to show you this a couple times. First I'm going to do it my normal way, which is holding my yarn in a sort of continental method, and then I'll show you the English way, or holding the yarn in the right hand, because you have to do it completely differently for both hands. And most times it's a lot closer to the same thing. What happens is I'm going to put my finger together with the needle, and I'm going to wrap the yarn so it goes around 1, 2, or 3 times. The more times you wrap it around, the more strands you get in your fringe. If you wrap it around twice, you get 1 strand in the fringe. If you wrap it around 3 times, you'll have 2 strands in the fringe. So then you pull that through, and you've got 3 loops on the needle. Give a little tug on those, and then you go and you knit another plain stitch. Now let me show you how to make this stitch if you're a thrower and you carry the yarn in your right hand. I've already inserted the needle into the stitch. The right needle goes in the stitch just like normal to make a knit stitch. And again, I'm going to use my index finger, only in this case I use my left index finger, and I'm going to throw it around 2 or 3 times. And then again, I pull it through and then take my finger out. And then I'm going to make another plain stitch. Now you'll notice this is slow going, whether you hold the yarn in your right hand or left hand, but that's okay because it's only 1 row. Let me go all the way around and show you how to finish this off. So we'll just finish the round, and if you have an odd number of stitches, you'll end the round on a plain stitch, and an even number, you'll end the round on a fringe. It doesn't matter. I've got my last fringe stitch there, and then I've got 1 more stitch, so I knit it plain. And we finished the round, and you can see how many loops we have on the needles. So now I'm going to turn again, and I'm just going to go back to knitting in the round. And I'm going to be very careful on this first round. I'm going to knit the first stitch. It's a single stitch. And then I'm going to knit the fringe stitch, and I'm going to grab all of those loops, and I just want to be careful that I don't let the fringe get sucked in. So you might want to hold it with your thumb. Again, everyone holds their yarn and needles a different way, so you'll find something that's comfortable for you. But you're just going to go across, and basically we're locking these fringes in by knitting all 3 loops together. I like to give a tug on each one after I finish it. That tightens it up and locks it in place. So you'll go all the way around like this, just knitting a plain stitch followed by basically a knit 3 together to lock in the fringe stitches. Here you can see that I'm back to 1 stitch on the needle for each stitch, and the fringe loops are all locked in. So you've got a fringe knitted right into your piece, and you don't have to worry about it at all. It does seem like it could come out easily, but I've seen antique mittens and socks made with this technique, and the fringes are still locked in place. So as long as you're using a wool yarn and it's got scales in it the way the wool has, which is what makes it felt, that will give your yarn enough grip to hold the fringe in place. Don't try it with silk or cotton or anything slippery though, because it won't really work as well.